Hey guys, this is Jason Douglas.
This is Adam MacArthur, voice of Yuji Itadori.
This is Derek Snow, the voice of Shinra Kusakabe.
This is Phil Parsons, voice of Kenny the Ripper Ackerman.
It's Merc Nguyen. You're watching Voice of the Heroes. Take it away, Fleeboy.
What's good, everybody? You already know who it is and what it is. And if you don't, it's the one and only one, Fleeboy Jetson. And if you're tuning in for the first time, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, please click that notification bell so you don't miss out on any interviews or discussions with your favorite heroes and villains from around the world. And today we got a very special guest. He's voiced multiple characters, decades of work. I'm talking about this man goes back to Gotcha Man. And we're going to talk about that in a second. He's also been in a lot of great anime shows like Suicide Squad, Isekai, Fairy Tail, 100-Year Quest, One Piece, Solo Leveling, Mobile Suit Gundam, Attack on Titan, Fire Force, Black Clover, Vinland Saga, Full Metal Alchemist, and in one of my personal favorites, Vampire Hunter D. Let's welcome John Gremillion. Is that how you pronounce your last name?
Actually, it's Gremillion. It's a French name, so the L's
Gremillion.
Yeah, Gremillion. So just pretend the L's aren't there. That's been my whole life, though. But don't worry about that. Every doctor's office I go to, every teacher in school, Gremillion. Yeah, that's what happens. That's all right.
Oh, so it's a French name. So you're French?
Yes, I am. My family's French.
Oh, that's what's up. I was gonna ask you before the show started too. I said because I've seen multiple ways of pronouncing it. And I seen one Spanish, one French. I'm he does look like he could be like Spanish or French or something. But let's get into it. Like I said, you've been doing this for a very long time. You mastered your craft. Pretty much your background was theater, things like that. You know, it was like a hit or miss situation where you went to New York. You didn't make the cut, but you still stayed 10 toes down and making a career out of it. Now, one of your first projects was Gotcha Man, which inspired a lot of pop culture stuff here in the Western side, and also inspired a lot of stuff during the Super Sentai run and the Power Rangers and stuff. For those of you who don't know, tell us how you got involved in that project.
Well, it wasn't Gotcha Man was not the first project I ever did. What really happened was that there's a group of actors. There's a large number of Houston actors. I'm living in Houston, Texas. And so in the mid to late 90s, ADV Films, which is now Sentai, if anybody who doesn't know, Texas is a huge hub for dubbing anime into English, right? Between Sentai and Okratron 5000 and Crunchyroll, 60% or so of all American dubs of anime happen here in Texas. So it's a huge anime hub, right? So what happened to me was that in the late 90s, I was doing some commercials, I was doing some voice work here and there, but ADV Films needed more actors. They only had a few actors, maybe 25 actors, to do all the roles that they were doing in anime titles. They got some new licensing and they said, we're going to do more titles. We need more actors. We need more voice types. We need more people with more range. We need to cover more bases. And so they used to just put out want ads in the paper. So every couple of months, you got to go to open call auditions here in Houston at ADV Films. It would be like auditioning for a commercial, and a bunch of people would show up, sit in a room, wait to meet the director, who at that time was Matt Greenfield, was doing most of those auditions right now. And he founded that company with John Ledford. And so we met him. We recorded some auditions for like things like Dirty Pair was the one that they were working on back then. I've still got that on VHS over there on my shelf. And I got asked to come back and record a couple of small roles. And then, a bunch of us just kind of got in on the ground floor, and we didn't know that anime was going to become the huge thing that it is today. We had no idea that the industry would explode like it did. So that's how I got involved with ADV Films. And Gotchaman was one of the many titles that we worked on. Even though it's an older title, we didn't start working on Gotchaman at ADV maybe 2 or 3 years into my association with them, maybe in the early 2000s or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember exactly when we did it, but it wasn't the first project I got in on. The first big project I did was Bubblegum Crisis 2040. I played a guy named Nigel Kirkland, who worked on motorcycles. He was their mechanic for the lights. The Night Sabers were the characters, these 4 women who were in the show. And that was my first big role. Gotcha Man kind of came later, yeah.
Okay, that's interesting to know. So Gatchaman definitely was, something that inspired a lot of content here on the West Side, but something that's also has been a breakout this year and
Yeah.
is inspiring the new generation of animation. And I want to give yourself I want to congratulate you and everybody else who worked on the project. Solo Leveling
Oh
has
yeah.
officially cleared the 2025 Crunchyroll Awards, taking
Yep.
home not only Anime of the Year, but 8 other awards. What was the experience like joining this beloved show?
It was really cool. I didn't. I came in at the end of season two. I played a mean, kind of a bad guy character, and was sitting in his office in the last 3 episodes of season two. I don't know if he's coming back for season three. I think he might. He's still around. He didn't disappear, but we'll see what happens. But it was a very interesting show. One thing that's interesting, I'll confess this about recording anime, and this usually happens with most of the series that we take part in, is that there's so little time and there's so much anime. And so a lot of voice actors, myself included, will tell you that we don't have time to watch a lot of anime. We don't watch all these shows. We don't watch every episode that we're in. We don't watch necessarily even the ones that we're in, definitely the ones that we're not in. And so sometimes, I mean, I've watched a lot of One Piece. I've watched all of My Hero Academia. I watched all of Excel Saga and Bubblegum Crisis and Nadesco and these older shows that I was interested in when I got them on DVD from the companies, copies of them. But I have not been a big Solo Leveling fan before I joined it. And so I came in kind of blind. I was coming in late into season two, and I had to have the director, Caitlin Glass, explain a lot of the situation to me. They give you walk into the studio most times not really knowing what you're up to, not knowing what you're in for. And it's kind of like this is why it matters to have some acting training behind you, not just have a voice, but have some acting training, some theatrical experience, et cetera, film, because you need to go in, create a character out of nothing, out of from scratch. Watch this. Here's a brief description of what you're doing. Go, let's record. We got a few minutes to record this. And so you've got to be directable in a studio. You've got to juggle a lot of things at the same time. It's a really fun way to work. It's a very interesting way to work. But that's what I always tell people when they want to become a voice actor is, be an actor. Really learn how to be directable and really learn how to call up different characters on the fly and just have good improv skills, right? And come out with it. But it was a really fun experience. Caitlin Glass is a really good friend of mine. She's a great actress, great director. She's directed me in several things at Crunchyroll. And what was interesting was that I'm doing a lot of conventions these days, and I traveled to New Zealand, and I saw her in New Zealand, and I saw her at some other conventions. And then I got the call, hey, do you want to be in Solo Leveling? I was like, oh, of course, but I don't know if I would have gotten the call had we not run into each other. Sometimes you're out of sight, out of mind. And so it's great to run into friends, and it's great to be out there at conventions and see other actors and directors, because then they can go, oh, I know you, I remember you. Hey, you might fit in this role. Let's give this guy an audition or give him a call and see what happens. That's a really cool thing that results from that. It's good to be out there in the biz, and I hope it continues.
Now, you talked a little about having those actor chops, right?
Yes.
Especially doing voice acting. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of people think like, hey man, I can sit here and impersonate Bugs Bunny, and
Yeah.
it's that easy. What do you think is the biggest misconception about voice acting?
Yeah, well, I think because voice acting is considered more voice than acting by a lot of people. It's true, and it's very easy to. I know why people understand. I understand why people believe that. You hear a voice on TV, you go, wait a minute, let me try to imitate that, and then you can imitate. Hey, man, I bet I could do this. Well, you may be able to. You may very well be able to be a voice actor. But we focus, and most voice actors will agree with me on this. We focus on the acting training because there's so much more to it than walking into a studio and saying, I know how to do this voice. I know how to sound like this. You've got to be able to work with the director. You've got to be able for the director to be able to say, okay, I like that, but I want you to give a little more edge to it. I want you to take this in a different emotional direction. I want you to give a little more, dial it in like this. The more directable you are and the more able you are as an actor to be able to say, yep, I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. That's in my trick bag too, not just my voice. Some people would walk into the studio who could do a voice and they don't have any acting training. They might be treading water. They might get in the studio and go, I'm sorry, I'm trying really hard, but I know how to do the voice, but I'm not really a great actor. That's the danger with that misconception. Do you know? Does that make sense?
No, that makes perfect sense
Yeah.
because one of the things that I will acknowledge, especially about today's quality in voice acting, it's gotten 20 times better than before. It's like now, like, don't get me wrong, before you had some really good dubbed anime shows like
Yeah.
Dragon Ball
Oh yeah.
Z,
Oh yeah.
Naruto, Full Metal Alchemist. You know, there was some really, really great ones out there. Bleach, just to name a few, right? There's so many.
Sure.
Now
Sure.
it's like almost everyone we getting actors pouring their all of their heart and soul and energy into it. And now with the internet, sometimes we get the behind the scenes footage of y'all
Yes.
behind the mic and you see the emotion. You
Yes.
see the acting. You see, like, you know, whether it be Mark Hamill, I seen something with him, or what's the gentleman's name that plays Sung Woo, Alex or something like that.
Not sure.
He plays the main character in Solo Leveling.
Okay. Okay.
Alex Lee or something like that.
Okay.
Him or multiple other actors, right? You see, and you see them like the face turning red, the different facial expressions, the emotions
Absolutely.
they're putting into the
Yep.
work. And
Yep.
even the guy who plays Goku, he said just from doing Goku alone, recently he told a fan he passed out like 3 times doing the screams. He legit just
Lot. It's a lot.
passed
Yeah.
out. So that just shows the type of effort that's going into the characters. And this is what the platform is here for. Voice of the
Sure.
Heroes to show y'all, you know, how
And
much we
I'll tell you
appreciate y'all
something
and love
else.
y'all for that.
I'll tell you something else. And this kind of relates back to Gotchaman and all these other shows that we did at ADV a long time ago. That reminds me of something. This is such a huge industry now that it's so much more competitive. There's so many more people who want to get into it. There's so much talent out there. People who are good actors, who really have great voices and range, who would fit every every kind of voice type you can imagine out there. There's an actor who can fit that exact voice type, right? It didn't used to be that way. A long time ago in the late 90s, there were, just like I said, like fewer actors. They got the pool a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger. It became better and better. They used to rely on me and a lot of other actors to do things that were out of our voice type and out of our range. Hey, can you imitate a British? Can you do British? Can you do German? Can you do Irish? Scottish voice? Can you do this and that? I can do different accents. And that's great to have that ability and that range, but can you bring your voice a lot higher? I used to have a lot higher pitched voice. It's gone down over the years. I've been doing this for about 26 years, and I'm much more of a bass baritone now. I used to be more of a tenor. I used to do things with my voice I can't do anymore. And I used to do things in the anime booth that I can't do anymore. And so these days, it's much more common for me to get cast in a role that sounds just like my voice, just in this little range right here. Let's cast John in this role and this role and this role, because that's what he sounds like, because that's what we need. If we need somebody to sound like this, hey, I've got 27 other people here I can call right away. And you know what I'm talking about? So when we did Gotchaman and when we did other shows, they needed a lot of range. There were about, 5 or 6 of us who were doing, 10 different characters or 6 different characters, right? So that's one thing that's changed a lot about the industry, is that it's so much more competitive now. Now, if a director knows me really well from back in the day, then he or she might hire me to say, hey, listen, can you do this different voice? Can you do something out of your range? Something you may not be familiar with. But newer directors, they're listening to your voice reel. If they hear that you've got a reel with a lot of range, they might hire you to do something. Sometimes I get hired because they go, hey, if he can do all this and that, he can probably do this voice I'm thinking about. But most of the time these days, I would say it's fair to say that people are cast almost exactly because of the way they already sound, so that the director doesn't have to work too hard to get them into a different place. They can just focus on the acting and the emotion. And they've got all these different voice types of all these different types of people who can fit the bill for what they're looking for.
I agree, man. And I think y'all all doing an amazing job. And I think, the business is grown to a place nobody thought it was gonna be. Where it's at now, even with the cons, the fandom, everything has exploded. And now, like you said, it's very competitive because, there's multiple shows coming out, and now everybody's trying to, get, cast. So,
Yep.
but this one right here, this next question, I know
Yeah.
y'all been waiting for it. This
Okay.
is for the One Piece fans.
Oh
I
yeah.
know y'all been waiting for it, man. So we all gonna start talking about Mihawk. Let's talk
Yep.
about Mihawk, right? And let's talk about, because One Piece is probably one of the most popular anime shows of all time. Like
Yep.
its popularity has grown within the manga, within the games, within the series itself. And now Netflix has started a live action series, which your character got introduced in the first season, which was pretty dope. So before we get into that and get your opinion on the live action version of Mihawk, tell us about your reaction when you got cast as Mihawk and the process of becoming him.
Oh, well, One Piece is such an interesting story because I've been recording Mihawk since 2007. So it's been 18 years now, which is crazy. I never thought that was going to happen. We never knew it was going to be the longest running anime in the history of ever. And One Piece has a very interesting history because I did not audition for Mihawk. I knew had recorded a few anime titles at Funimation when they used to be in an old bank building in Fort Worth before they were Crunchyroll, before they had these new offices and studios. Way back in the day, in the 2000s, Mike McFarlane, who plays Buggy the Clown, and he's a writer of the scripts and a director of the show, a lot of shows. He directed me in a few titles, and he cast me as Mihawk. He just said, "I want you to play a role. Come on up to Dallas, drive up here, and we'll." You always had to drive back then, and we'll cast you in this role. I said, "Okay, great." I didn't know who he was. I'd never seen the One Piece before. Didn't know what he looked like. I show up. I see this guy Mihawk, and I go, "Wow, okay, what does this guy sound like? I have no idea." Is he Spanish? Is he a Spaniard? I don't think I want him to make him a Spaniard. I think the Four Kids guy made him French, which is ridiculous. And so I thought, wow, this is interesting. And I had just seen a Harry Potter film. And so I thought about Professor Snape. And I said, I bet he's like Snape. I bet he's really intimidating and above it all and real a lot. He's just, nothing affects him. He's just so scary, deep, just real core deep. And so, I thought about Snape, and then I took away the British and kept it very sly in my nose like that. And that's how I have Mihawk sound. He's very, very above it all, very sounding like this. It's kind of more in my nose. And so Mike said, okay, that sounds pretty good. That's Mihawk's voice. And fine, that was great. And then lo and behold, he keeps showing up every couple of years and just says, hello, I'm a badass, goodbye. That's all he does, right? I was in the movie Stampede. Hey, cool, I'm going to be in the movie Stampede. Guess what I did? I showed up, I had 2 lines. Hey, I was just a badass. Later. And that's all I did. And then, so I'm like, okay, this guy's a great character. He never has to scream like in Dragon Ball. He's super cool. His abs have abs. What more can you want? So I go, great. Then One Piece was popular-ish. Then it wasn't very popular and people were not watching it. I think there's a rumor going around that I thought I heard the other day, and I think it's true, that for a while there was even the possibility that they were going to stop dubbing it in English because people just weren't watching it. It wasn't worth it. It didn't have the following. But then the pandemic hit, people were on lockdown, and people started binge watching One Piece. Hey, here's a show I can watch all day, all night, all week, all month while I'm on the couch. And we got a whole bunch of new fans, right? And then Netflix decided to do the live action. It took off. It became a smash hit, right? And then we have all these new fans. So now One Piece is huge. It was not huge 2-3 years ago. It's massive now because of this. And speaking of the live action, I loved it. I can't wait for seasons 2 and 3. I think they were filming them both at once, I think is the story. But I thought they did an amazing job, and they worked really close with Oda, and you can tell because they kept the spirit of the show. They kept the flavor of it. They kept all the things about it that you really liked when you watch the anime, but they got the story nice and kind of condensed. It's not so long and drawn out. You get to certain plot points sooner. You like the characters just as much, even though they're played by a variety of actors and actresses of different races and types and creeds. I think it's fantastic. And I was able to go to a convention a year and a half ago in Saudi Arabia, and I met Stephen John Ward, who plays the live action version of Mihawk. He was at that same convention. I said, oh, this is going to be off the chart. I meet him in a hotel. We show up at like 5 a.m. We're all exhausted. We flew to Saudi Arabia. I say, hey, Stephen, I'm John Gremillion. I play Mihawk in the anime. And he goes, oh my God, I'm geeking out. I said, You're geeking out, man. Come on. You're holding the sword. You're the physical dude. You're actually there. I mean, he's actually playing the guy, and he does a fantastic job. And we're friends now. He became a friend of mine. He's one of the nicest guys I have ever met. I've met his whole family. We met in New Zealand when we did another convention. He brought his wife and kids. They're just really sweet people. He gives his money to animal charities. He's the coolest dude. So I have nothing but good things to say. And I'm not just blowing smoke. I mean, I've got nothing but great things to say about Steven. He's fantastic. So the Mihawk verse is in full effect.
And is well taken care of because y'all are both amazing. Man, that is so dope, man. It's not too often that characters that play the anime meet the live action version of them and actually become friends.
Oh, yeah, it's great. I love it. I love it.
That's actually fantastic. And imagine it at a convention, both of y'all being there. That's so dope for the fans, man. That's pretty cool.
We've been to two of them now. We've been to two of them now together. We were
Two already?
Yeah.
Oh man, y'all gotta come to Tulsa,
we were
man.
in Saudi Arabia, and then we were at Armageddon Expo in New Zealand last summer. And so, and we were both signing at Armageddon. So we did a panel together. That was really super fun. But that's going to happen more and more now that seasons 2 and 3 got more characters coming out. There's going to be conventions where you can go meet. They ought to do a con. They ought to do an international con where they just get every live actor and all their counterparts to just show up at a con.
I'm not even gonna lie. One Piece Con will go crazy. Just One Piece characters, the live action and the anime version.
Yep.
It would be insane.
Yeah, they're out of control.
Now, before we jump off of One Piece, right? Yes. I do have a fan question. I usually ask, the fans from the community, if y'all want to ask a question, whatever the case may be.
Right.
One of them asked, in a fight, who do you think will win? Mihawk or who was it? Let me go in the phone.
Is it Shanks?
I think it was. Let me see.
Everybody's asking that question.
Yeah, it was. It was Mihawk and Shanks. Who do you think wins?
That's such a tough question. We get that asked all the time, and it's so difficult to answer because Shanks doesn't have one of his arms. With that puts him at an automatic disadvantage. The idea that people think that some guy who has one arm can beat the world's greatest swordsman who still has two, that's showing some real faith in Shanks. I gotta say that's because he's already at a disadvantage. I'm gonna say I'm biased. I mean, I'm gonna have to say that Mihawk would win because not only is he has an advantage, but he's also the best.
Talk that talk. That's right.
Come on, even though he's training somebody right now, Zoro, to beat him, which is weird. I understand why. He respects Zoro a lot. He thinks he's got a lot of heart, and he says, this guy is worth training. So yeah, come on, show me what you got. Surpass me. I want you to surpass me. He's like Sir Lancelot. Nobody can beat me, and so I'm bored. I'm like, I need somebody to show me they can be better than me. I don't know if that's his real motivation, but I think in the final showdown, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if I know that Zoro and Mihawk have to have a final battle, but I don't know if Mihawk and Shanks are ever going to have a battle. Who
do you think is going to win that final battle? You think Zoro probably get the best of him?
I would think that the plot is moving in the direction that Zoro will surpass Mihawk, but I don't know anything, folks, but I hope that he doesn't kill him. I hope he lets him live out of respect. I hope he just scars him the same way that he scarred him. It's like truce, peace out. We're both good. Thanks for training me. Respect. That's the way to do it, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. If Oda can make that happen, that'd be great. But I think that's what I would like to see personally.
And I wonder what the live action does with Mihawk. Because, I heard they are making some changes. They might just be subtle changes.
Yeah, they may be. I don't know if they're adapting the script possibly to make sure that Mihawk can have more of an appearance than he had in the anime. They're condensing things, moving him around. They've already made some interesting changes, like with Monkey D. Garp as a character from the beginning that you don't meet later. Different things have happened that are a little out of the ordinary. The stuff with Buggy and the big top scene that he had, and it was not in the anime. So it's very interesting what they've been doing, but they've been making it very, very cool. They're
Yeah.
still
So,
keeping the
well,
spirit.
there goes your
They're still sticking
answer.
to the spirit of
Mihawk comes out on top, man.
I think so. I think so.
All right, so now let's move on real quick. I want to talk about your role as Commissioner James Gordon
Oh boy.
because in the new Batman movie, which probably was like so dope for you to get cast as. I know you're like, hey, I'm the big commissioner. Let's do it, man. How was that?
That was interesting. That took me about 30 minutes max. I mean, there weren't very many lines of that character, but he made an impression. People are talking about that movie. I think it's great. I auditioned for it for different roles. I went in on an audition. They said, hey, read this, read this, read that. And they eventually just gave me the commissioner. And I said, oh, great. I love Commissioner Gordon. He's fantastic. So, I thought, and that was fun. Kyle Jones directed it. He's a good old friend of mine. Cast me in a lot of stuff still these days. We get along great. He's a great fun director. We have a lot of fun in the studio. And we just decided to give him this particular kind of seasoned voice, and I'm gonna have to watch that whole movie again because I haven't seen it yet. I know it came out recently, so we
Would you
recorded.
like to come back as Commissioner James
Oh,
Gordon
sure,
in
man.
something else?
If they want to do some more, bring it. That's great. Love to.
All right, let's go. Now we're going to come to a topic that I had to talk about. This might not have been in the topic list, but
Right?
it's Vampire Hunter D. Now, this anime film holds a spot near and dear to me.
Oh boy.
And we was talking about it off air, and you told me some very interesting things about this anime that I
Yeah.
gotta go check out as soon as we get off
Right.
of this
And
interview.
I didn't tell you the most interesting story. This is kind of an embarrassing story, but I tell it on other interviews and I tell it at on podcasts and I tell it at conventions because it's true. Anime voice actors, like I said, you go in cold. You get a phone call on a Tuesday. Hey, can you come in next Thursday and record this thing? You don't even know what you're recording. You walk in. Oh, what's this? I've never heard of it before. I had never heard of Vampire Hunter D. I didn't know about the comics. I didn't know about the lore. I didn't know about the canon. I didn't know about the sequels. I didn't know about Bloodlust. I didn't know it was such a popular, cool, old school anime that so many people got into for the first time. I was in high school, when it came out in 1985, the original movie. And we were re-recording the original movie. We were redubbing with a new dub cast at Sentai 10 years ago in 2015. We recorded the new version of it that's out now. And they just did a brief run of it in movie theaters. We went and hosted it here in town. Some of the cast was there. It's me, John Swayze, Jay Hickman, some other folks, Shannon Emmerich. We all went, Brittany Karbowski, we all went to, show people this version of it. But when I recorded it, it took me, I think the session lasted about an hour and a half. And I thought, oh, really? Oh, this is some cool old school animation. All right, this is fun. I didn't think it was a big deal. I didn't know the popularity of it. I knew nothing about it. I just walked out of there, and that was 1 hour and a half of my day on a Tuesday, and I forgot about it. And I didn't remember it after that. I didn't really remember it after that, what it was called or anything. And so a friend of mine, she calls me, and she is fangirling out. She was going, "Oh my God, John, you were in Vampire Hunter D. Congratulations, you were in Vampire. That's really cool." I go, "Vampire Hunter what?" She goes, "John, Vampire Hunter D, man. You recorded Vampire Hunter D. You, John Swayze, all these other. You just got nominated for a movie award, like an anime dub award, as best revival cast." And I was like, "Vampire? I think you might have me mistaken." She goes, "John, you were D. You were the lead character." And I go, so I got on YouTube. I looked it up. I looked it up on Google. First thing, the image comes up, and I go, "Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. I remember recording that." She goes, she face palms. She says, "You don't know what you record?" And I go, Sometimes we just walk into a studio and do our job because it's a job, right? Sometimes there's that element of it, and you forget what you did. I can't remember a lot of the things that I recorded, even though I've got DVDs all over my shelves of a lot of stuff I've recorded over the years. I'd have to watch it to even remember what I did, because you did it one time. When you're a voice actor, it's not like when you do it, like when you're a stage actor and you do a play, you remember a lot of the play because you rehearse it. You memorize the script. You do it over and over, rehearsal after rehearsal. You have a table reading. You have previews before an audience. If you're on Broadway, you do it 8 days a week. I mean, eight times a week. So you remember it. You remember a lot about it. Even then, years later, you forget your lines, you forget what you did. But when anime, you record it one time and you're done. And that recording that you did is what goes on Netflix, Hulu, Max, wherever, on DVD, whatever you're recording. So that's the other thing about being an actor is like get your improv skills and your acting skills and chops down, because walk in there with and then the voice is the icing on the cake. When you walk in there, you got to bring your A game, because that's what's going to be permanently etched on that series and on that DVD, right? But you forget a lot of what you recorded. That's the downside of it. Unless you were watching it, streaming it, reading the manga, following it, depending on how big a fan you are of that show, you might not be. You might say, this is my job. This is what I do. I'm a voice actor. I record anime. So you go in there and sometimes you don't remember, but that's a funny story because that became a huge thing. People love that character. He's like,
Yeah, that character is
Oh,
very
yeah.
popular. Man.
Oh, yeah.
It's nostalgic. It's a great
Big time.
film. It's
Big
really
time.
and one thing, right? I do agree with you though, and I won't even fault you or be mad at you because when I
Right.
first started doing this podcast, right?
Yeah.
My favorite anime of all time is Naruto.
Naruto.
So when I started the podcast, I did a lot of interviews with that cast.
Okay.
And the way I came with my questions were more questions about the characters instead of the person.
Yeah.
Now, like you said, a lot of voice actors, they go in there, they do a job, and a lot of them might not even watch the show.
That's right.
So,
That's
you
right.
know, when I got to interview, a couple of them that Doug Airholtz or some of these gentlemen, they knew certain scenes or certain stuff they was in, but they didn't watch the full anime. So
That's right.
I had to stop revolving my questions around the characters and more about the
Sure.
individual
Right.
self and
I-
their career.
Yeah,
So
and I remember some animes from way back when, because I remember recording them was so much fun, like comedies that we recorded. Like there's one called Cromartie High School. You can watch it on Prime, on Amazon Prime. It's hilarious. I was a school bully. It was fantastic. I love recording that one. Ghost Stories is a really hugely popular one with a lot of lore, because we changed the script. We were able to do whatever we wanted to. So the director rewrote the script and put a lot of comedy in it that wasn't in the original one. And we all had wacky characters that never said what they said in Japanese. I remember that. I've got that on DVD over in the corner, and that's on Amazon Prime and all that. So yeah, I mean, I remember some of those things. Some things stay etched in your memory for certain reasons, and some of them just don't.
yeah, you got to think about it. Y'all got to cut them some slack because in a matter of 20 years, they could go through 600 characters. You're
Lots of
talking about
characters.
side characters. You're
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about monster
Big
growls,
Big time.
all types of stuff.
Big time.
Now, I want to go back to your earlier years, right?
Okay.
I've seen a couple of interviews with you before doing this interview just to
Okay.
get some, background and some knowledge about you and things like that. And I seen as a kid, you said, you was into like Martin Scorsese, things like that, and you like to, do your own filming and write comic books and things like that. So my question to you now that you're in the business, do you still have those interests to like maybe one day become a director or a writer for your own comic book?
That's a really good thing. Not comic books. No, I used to draw I drew some comic books of my own, some little characters when I was in 6th grade, right? I had a little comic book and my friends read it. It was kind of fun because I liked Peanuts when I was a kid. And then I liked Doonesbury in college. And so I was like basing it off of those different comics. And it was just teenagers that I drew characters up. I mean, silly stuff, right? But no, I haven't done comics since then. I used to draw a lot when I was a kid, so I did comics. But then I also directed with a little Super 8 movie camera. I directed my 6th grade class in some comedy stuff, some like silent films. Like I used to watch Charlie Chaplin movies and Buster Keaton and the Keystone Cops and stuff like that. So I said, hey, let's do some funny stuff and record funny tapes with your friends. I used to do all that kind of stuff. And I did go to UT Film School. I went to Juilliard to study theater in New York for a couple of years. I got cut from that program, came home, decided maybe I wasn't going to be an actor, got into film school, loved film school. I've been a video editor as long as I've been a voice actor. So I cut my own promos for Instagram when I go to a convention. I cut other people's promos and stuff like that. Some people have hired me to, cut videos for cons and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I'm probably never going to give up the dream of one day either being a director, but as an editor, you get to really tell the story eventually. When other people shoot stuff, when they bring it all to you, you get to shape it and make it either pass or fail, because it's you know, it really comes together in the edit room. So I love putting stuff together. That's been something I've been lucky enough to do my whole life and get paid for it. So got two things I like to do that you know, help make a living and put food on the table, and I'm a lucky guy.
Hey man, that's what's up. I was just wondering because sometimes like I think about that, right? Like when I was young, I used to tell stories.
Yeah.
And so, sometimes they got me in trouble in them stories I told. But I used to tell stories, and I also used to have stories in my mind that I always wanted to get out.
Yeah.
And now that I gotten older, I'm in the process of creating comic books and things like that, and trying to get these visions out of my head and
Yeah.
get them on paper. And I find it a lot more difficult because in your head you can have a whole world built.
Oh
But
yeah.
then, putting it on paper is a lot more difficult. So I was wondering
Sure.
if you was going through the same process. But to move on to the next question, right? Are
Mhm.
there any upcoming or ongoing shows out there that you'll be interested in doing that you might have seen and like, I wouldn't mind, getting cast in that.
Cast that have not been cast in?
Yeah, that you haven't been casting yet.
Interesting. I wouldn't mind, I think, I love My Hero, so I wouldn't mind being in My Hero Vigilantes in the future in some capacity. I auditioned for the original first round of it. I didn't get cast, but I would love to play a role in that in the future. Who knows? Because I love that franchise. I love that, I played Gentle Criminal in My Hero, the original. It's my favorite character I've ever played. Ever in any anime is my favorite. The writing was great. He's a comic relief. He's got a serious backstory. I really love the messages of that show. They're great for audiences. I love it. So
How you feel about the final season popping off in October?
oh, that's great. Oh, that's good. We're gonna miss it, because my character's done. Gentle's had his day. I don't think he comes back and has any more lines, but we may see at the very end like where he ended up, but I don't think he's got any lines. And I think that what else? Solo leveling came true, so I got to be happy about that. And I'm glad that One Piece is continuing, and I hope it continues for a really long time because we love riding that wave. It's great. I love it, and people are really into it. What else? I don't know. What other shows are out there? I like, I've heard Jujutsu Kaisen is just fantastic, and but I don't know if they're continuing or not right now.
I think they got a couple more seasons.
They got a couple more seasons.
They
All right.
probably got a couple more.
That'd be fun. That'd be a lot of fun. Demon Slayer, I thought was really cool, and there's a couple shows out there that I haven't taken part in that I thought that'd be badass. It'd be either play a demon or play a bad. I usually play bad guys these days. It's a mixture, but I play at least bad sounding guys. Guys with some level of badassery, even if they're good people. Gentle was probably the last character I played who was a truly good person. Right? I think Mihawk's a good guy, but we don't know anything about his backstory yet.
Yeah, I would like that. I would like an episode.
Still don't know what makes that boy tick. We got to find out, why does he hate the Marines so much? Why did he become a Marine hunter? There's so many theories. I think he had a love interest and they didn't let him, they took his woman away or something. He's like, nope, not on my watch.
You played in the anime pool, right? You played in DC's backyard. Would you like to do anything in Disney's Playhouse? Like as far as like Marvel, Star Wars, anything like that?
I would never turn down a Star Wars gig. I'm a Star Wars guy. Yeah. I mean,
would you like to do a Sith or a Jedi?
Oh gosh, probably a Jedi. Who knows? I'll play whatever they would offer, frankly. But yeah, I stood in line when I was a little kid in 1977 when Star Wars first came out, the first one, at the Galleria, a few miles from my apartment right now. It stood in line for hours to get a ticket to see Star Wars. Got my popcorn, went in, saw it twice. I was watching those movies when I was a kid, lining up at the skating rink to buy a movie theater ticket.
That's awesome.
Back in the day.
All right. My next couple of questions are leading to the end of the show, but they're universal questions. I ask all of my guests these questions.
Okay.
The first one will be, who are your top 5 fictional characters of all time? You can go to the books, to the tabletop games, cartoons, animes, movies.
What a challenge, man. As a kid, I used to watch Bugs Bunny cartoons. I've always loved Bugs Bunny. He's one of my favorite It's one of my favorite shenanigators, right? Is what I call him. You're into shenanigans. He's the ultimate shenanigator. So I gotta give props to Bugs. Somebody you always wish you were like. Gosh, Speed Racer. I love Speed. I love
Ooh,
Speed.
that's a good
Love
one.
Racer X and Speed Racer is a badass. I love him. Let's see. In movies, one of my favorite movies is Goodfellas by Scorsese. If you're a Scorsese fan, you're not into Goodfellas, something's wrong with you. And so, Henry Hill was always, a character because that's the ultimate movie about how appealing evil can be, like how tempting it can be to be a bad person, get into the bad life. Because you think, oh, it's got all this, the banality of evil is what they call it, right? That's a good one. Gosh, those are three. I got to come
Got
up
two
with
more.
more. Oh,
I always say this is probably the hardest question I ask
I
because for
know people
me,
get stumped on this one, man.
yeah, because for me it changes every time I ask it. Even for myself,
Yeah,
like earlier I gave you a couple, and right now, just talking to you, like two more popped in my head. I would put it on my list.
really. Okay. Maybe you can trigger something in my mind if you talk about yours. I'll think of mine. Gosh. Let's see. I don't want to hold this up too long. Who did I really admire in a show a long time ago? Oh, wait, Gus McCrae in Lonesome Dove. All right. Lonesome
Okay.
Dove is like one of the best miniseries ever created about Texas. It's the ultimate Western. Robert Duvall played Gus McCrae. Got to give it up to Gus. Okay, at least one more. You know what? Al Swearingen in Deadwood, the ultimate badass. He's wow. Complex character. I also like Jamie Lannister in Game of Thrones. I got to throw it out to him because he was very complex.
Yeah, he was a
Wasn't just a
crazy
bad guy.
complex.
He was a bad guy who really believably became a good guy. Then I hate how they ended it and his arc just fell off the map. I was really mad because it was the first time I'd seen a really genuinely believable transformation that I could really buy that made sense from somebody who seemed to be all bad, who became a good dude. I dig that.
Yeah, I really love speaking
Gotta
of Game
dig
of
that.
Thrones, man. We can go hours for that because that's one of my favorite franchises. So
Yeah.
Jamie Lannister, man, even them calling him the Kingslayer, I think even that, the perception he got and the name that he got for doing it, I felt like he did it for the right reasons.
Mm.
And he got all the backlash for it and carried all that weight on his shoulders like a true champ. So I love that last pick. All right, now this is where it gets a little more complicated. What are your Mount Rushmore of voice actors?
Whew. Boy, oh boy. Okay. John Swayze is a great director and a really prolific voice actor and an inspiration and a great friend. Got to have him up there.
And we love John Swayze
Yeah,
here
man.
on
And I
the
don't,
show,
man, it's
man.
tough. This is tough because I don't want to leave anybody out. Johnny Young Bosch was really fantastic. Lucy Christian is fabulous. Brittany
Got one
Carb
more. Be careful. We
yeah,
got one
Brittany
more.
Karbowski. Oh man, Bryce Papenbrook. How about that? Love those guys. But there's so many. I mean, gosh, there's Monica Rial and Caitlin Glass and and Chris Sabat and all these great cast members of My Hero that I got to work with and different people I've met at conventions. I could sit here and name them all, but Mount Rushmore would
So
get
if you
too
was to sum it up in four,
not
who would the
fair.
four
All
be?
right. Oh, the first four that I mentioned. What can I do? Swayze, Brittany Karbowski, Lucy Christian, and Johnny Young Bosch. How about that?
Hey, I love that list. I'm not
Do it.
even mad at it because Johnny Young Bosch is truly one of my
I'm
favorite
not
voice
counting anybody
actors of
else
all
out. Mount
time.
Rushmore of anime needs to go on and on and on for a long time.
And then John Swayze, man, he came on the channel and gave us a start when the
Yeah.
channel was just formed. We was brand
Oh, that's
new, didn't
great.
even have like 10 subscribers. So
Awesome.
big shout out to John Swayze, man.
Awesome. Awesome.
And I
Awesome.
hope we get him back on the show because, like you say, he plays all for one or one for
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
One of them. He's gonna be in the finale, and I'm excited to see what happens with his character. Man, oh man, My
I don't know.
Hero final season, October. I don't think
Crazy.
I'm ready to say goodbye. What about
Crazy.
you?
Crazy. I'm not. I never will be. I think that show was a huge turnaround for me.
Mm.
Because of Gentle. I had not been, I had heard all about My Hero Academia and I loved it. And I loved doing it, but I had heard about it for a long time. Everybody was in it. Everybody was talking about it. So Colleen Clinkenbeard who plays Luffy, who's a great director and an amazing actress, and she's a good old friend of mine. She directed me in Black Butler and some other stuff at Funimation a long time ago. And I sent her an email one day and I said, "Hey, listen, Colleen, I haven't seen you in a long time. I know it's been out of sight, out of mind, but I keep hearing about my hero and how awesome it is. For whatever it's worth, I want to throw my name in the hat. If there's any character you think that would be a fit for me, let's give it a shot. Let me see if I can do it." And she said, okay, she sent me an audition slide for Gentle Criminal. And she said, do a British voice and an American voice. And I was like, come on, this dude's British. Come on. He's got tea. He's got a mustache. It's British all over the place. She let me do him as a British guy, which is part of his persona, right? That's what we decided it was all about. But everybody talked about how they didn't give him a lot of love at first. He's getting a lot more love now because he turned out to be the GOAT because he saved the school, came back and redeemed himself.
Mm-hmm.
But what a lot of people didn't notice was, I tell this story a lot too. I'm going to be repeating myself a lot here, but a lot of people say, well, he's not a badass. He's not scary. We just got done with Overhaul. We're about to do these really scary arcs. He's just this filler, right? He's not filler at all. He's just a different story. He's not a villain. He's a criminal, but he's not a villain. And he's trying to be a villain. So he's like the anti-villain villain. So he just fills a certain niche in the story. But he is somebody who, I go to conventions and I say, let's talk about Gentle for a minute. Gentle really wanted to be a hero, really wanted to achieve something, but he kept failing. How many people have failed at something? All the hands go up. How many people really wish that they were somebody else sometimes? They don't like who themselves all the time. Every hand goes up. Me too. How many people, feel like they failed in school or whatever, failed this, failed that, and they want a second chance and they just give up on themselves? You ever want to give up on yourself? Yep, he did too. His story and his personality is just universal. So then he makes this big mistake of he's so down on himself and everybody's against him. He's so down on himself that he says, if I'm going to make a difference in the world, I can't be myself. I got to be somebody else. Big mistake. Because you've got to always be yourself. You can't escape who you are. And that's his big character flaw. But a lot of people do that. They're so down. It's like, I've got to pretend to be someone else. I've got to put on a face. I've got to be this. I've got to make everybody think that I'm this person when I'm really this person. That is universal. And he does it on social media. Ding, ding, ding. How many people do you know on social media? My life is incredible. It's an unending parade of joy. No, we all have really secret, sad lives underneath, and we have our problems, and everybody's got that stuff. So the lesson of his arc and the lesson of that show, and that I was thinking is, a lot of people I meet today, they go, I want to be an actor. I want to be this. I want to be that, but I don't have enough followers. I don't have enough this. I'm not liked enough on social media. I'm not going viral. Who cares? If I call BS, if you're going viral, more power to you. Get down with your bad self, but it's not a measure of your self-worth. It's not a measure of who you are as a person. It's not the same thing. It's something you can strive to achieve, but it's not a measure of who you are as a person. And that's the lesson of Gentle's story, and that's why I love that character.
Hey, man, when you break it down like that, he seems so relatable. And you're right. Like, I believe, especially the kids today, man, that's like 99.9% of the children out there.
I can't tell you how many people, I talk to kids about it too. And then I've had parents come up to me at conventions and say, thanks for saying that, because my kid won't listen to me, but he listened to you. And I'm like, wow, we've got some power here. That's power. That's a lot of, if you can have that kind of influence on somebody, that's major. I think that's huge.
It really is. And this is
favorite
why
part of being part of this industry is that you can tell people, you can talk to kids, you can tell people what's up, you can give them life lessons, you can tell them, how to be, what you think you ought to be. Don't make social media your whole life. Don't be mean to each other. Just be a decent person. It'll come, because it's going to come back to you. And everybody you meet on the way up, you're going to meet on the way back down.
Tell them, I'm, and you're right. Everything y'all say and do has a huge influence and impact on the community, especially the kids, because my kids, myself as a kid, we looked up, like, don't get me wrong, back in the day when you're a child, you didn't know who was playing these voices. It ain't like, you didn't stay for the end credits and see the credits roll. But nowadays, with the internet, we're putting faces to some of these characters now. And the conventions have made it so better for the average fan to actually meet their actual heroes. And for me, like when I met Johnny Young Bosch, when I met Steve Blum, all in the same convention, you know, I got to see two voices that I've been hearing my whole life.
Yeah.
And then meeting them and hearing some of the, you know, the advice or guidance or whatever you get from y'all, man, is a blessing. And I want to thank you on the behalf of everybody out there throughout all the voices you entertained us with, the times you made us laugh, times you made us cry, the times you was a super villain and you made us hate your guts. All of it was great acting, and we are here to be the voice of the hero. Thank you so much for coming by. Also, let people know where they can find you at on social media.
Oh, yeah. You can go to johngremillion.com. That is the easiest way to do it. It's my full name, just spelled all lowercase with no spaces. johngremillion.com. And at the very bottom of the front page, there is a QR code that you can just click or scan or whatever. And that is my link tree. That's all of my, that's YouTube, from Instagram. That's everything. So that's the way to find me. And you can go to, there is a store page on my website that if you can't meet me at a convention and you want to get a signed print like of Mihawk or Gentle or the other prints, this original artwork that a friend of mine drew that I sign at conventions, you can get them there on the website. I'll mail them to you. So if you want to get them at the store, you can do that. If you can't meet me at a con.
That is phenomenal. And heroes, all links will be provided in the description below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, because we are doing a Nintendo Switch giveaway. The only thing you got to do is like, comment, and subscribe. It's that easy to enter. And the more you comment, the better your chances are at winning, because the more I might just see you. It's completely random, and we're going to give it at the next milestone at 5K. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. As always, don't forget to love yourself, pass that love on, and love others. And if nobody told you so, just know your boy love you. Voice of the Heroes, signing out.
Sing it with me.